How's it going, guys? My name is Zach with the Movie Castle, and today we're going to be talking about the Star Wars Holiday Special from 1978. For those of you guys who are familiar with this channel, you know I do primarily horror movies on here, but I do want to cover a few other things from time to time. This is December. I'm covering Christmas stuff all year long. And while it's primarily Christmas horror movies, there are a few Christmas movies that I do want to cover that aren't horror, aren't scary. Although this is very loosely Christmas, I did want to cover it. I'm actually a pretty big fan of Star Wars and sci-fi in general. It just doesn't really come up too often on this channel. But I did want to actually cover this. So, Star Wars Holiday Special 1978, directed by Steven Binder, and stars actually pretty much the original cast. They even got the guy that did the physical presence of Vader is the same. Of course, Anthony Daniels is back, so, even people that, aren't physical faces, they actually brought back as well. But, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, they all make appearances, which is great. So with this, I actually do have to admit, this year was actually my first year watching it all the way through. I had seen the clips, and I heard its reputation, so I was familiar with it, but I never actually sat down and watched the whole thing. It's over an hour and a half long, and its reputation preceded it, so I was a little hesitant about watching it, but I figured I really should. And I had these Christmas reviews coming up. I'm like, now is the perfect time. So let's just dive right in. I would normally say no spoilers, but this is a variety show, so that doesn't necessarily apply, and there's one bit at the end that I really do have to talk about. Anyway, this opens up, you get Han and Chewie on the run from the Empire. They're trying to make it back to Chewie's homeworld of Kashyyyk so that he can celebrate Life Day, which is like this Star Wars equivalent of Christmas, bearing in mind this is a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Christmas probably wasn't around yet. So Life Day, Han and Chewie coming back. But this movie isn't really about Han and Chewie coming back. Imagine, say, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but instead of following Steve Martin trying to get home, the story follows Steve Martin's family watching TV, waiting for him to come home. You see how that's significantly less interesting of a movie? Well, here we follow Chewie's family, waiting for Chewie to come home. Every now and then we cut back to Chewie and Han and some recycled footage from Star Wars, but it's not the thrilling action-adventure that you would want it to be. It's waiting on someone who's doing that thrilling action-adventure. Chewie's family, they watch various pieces of media, and every now and then something comes and they deal with it, but it's primarily, okay, Chewie's son is watching this, Chewie's dad is watching that. Random security camera footage, which turns into, well, not well edited, but turns into multi-shot TV footage as opposed to static security camera, which I guess would be more boring. But yeah, it's a bunch of random stuff, primarily songs and supposed comedy bits. So yeah, you see, post-Star Wars, the expanded universe, what the Star Wars feel wasn't super established, so the idea of doing a variety show for Star Wars does feel odd, but back then people didn't really know or understand the IP. They're like, science fiction, fantasy? Alright, that'll be the base for this anthology segment, which will be nothing to do with anything, really. But also, the age group that they're trying to go for, primarily kids. They think Star Wars is a kids franchise. Let's make something that appeals to little kids. you're primarily following Chewbacca's son along. There are little funny comedy bits that they think kids might like, little dance maneuvers, little songs. For some reason, people that make kids media think kids really love songs, and I can tell you when I was a kid, I was not the biggest fan of the song scenes in the movies. They just always seemed to drag on and slow the plot down, but for some reason, I mean, a good song is a good song, but people who make kids media think kids love songs, and they like good songs because anyone likes good songs. But yeah, not necessarily you sing a song, kids just go nuts, not like that. But even though being primarily marketed towards kids, there's several things that don't work for kids, and it's not like, say in a movie where they just slip in a reference every now and then for the adults. Like whole segments that I don't think kids would understand or like. Chewbacca's dad gets a VR setup, so I guess it was ahead of its time. But he watches a semi-erotic song on there, and that's weird and definitely not kid-oriented. There's a scene in a bar where a guy is hitting on the bartender lady for a long time, which, I mean, kids don't really relate to bar culture, and seeing this one guy hit on this lady for a really long time is, I think they thought it was funny. Which is, I think, a lot of the things with the special, when it's weird, you're like, I guess they thought it was funny. But anyway, this has two segments that are passable. Out of all this stuff, you get a Jefferson Starship playing a song better than the rest of the songs in here. There's supposed to be a hologram that they're watching as, like, the Empire's coming to raid their house and search the place, and they find Jefferson Starship. So an Empire guy sits there and watches the whole song, and overall it's a standard music video. The whole thing, though, it's like, okay, they're holograms, so this time they're purple, and it's the whole concept, Jefferson Starship, but they're purple. Chewie's son watches a cartoon. This is the only segment to get officially re-released. Now you do have to wonder why Chewbacca's son has a cartoon of one of his father's adventures. Did Chewie pay an animator to make this for his son as like a present or something? I don't know, and he doesn't really have to watch it, but he, sneaks it away from the Empire, trying to watch it while they're there for some reason. The cartoon is entertaining enough. The Millennium Falcon crashes into this, like, jelly planet, and they found a medallion that puts organic life to sleep, or human life, so they have to go and save him, and it's primarily the droids and Chewie. This is actually the first time fans would see Boba Fett, and that, of course, is great. Actually, the first time fans would see Kashyyyk as well, so there's quite a few first. This is more entertaining than the rest. It's pretty good, although there are certain things like some faces looking a little off, in particular Han's drawing. He has next to no eyes, and for some reason 3PO actually blinks, which is a little weird. While it's not perfect, it's definitely better than the rest of the special. Now you can say, oh, Star Wars isn't supposed to be a variety show. It isn't supposed to be songs and dance. But let's say, pretend this wasn't Star Wars. Would it be a good variety show? And no. Several of them is boring. There's skits that they think are funny, and they drag on for way too long, and they're really not funny. Like Chewbacca's son sets up a translation machine, and he watches a tech support video, so we have to watch the tech support video, and they think it's funny because the guy every now and then, like, the video skips a bit, and it's not funny enough to warrant how long we have to watch a tech support video for a product that doesn't exist. That goes on a bit, but if you talk about scenes that drag on, there are several scenes, including one of the first scenes where Chewie's family is talking to themselves with no humans around, and it's not translated, no subtitles. So you see Wookiees growling at each other, and you have no idea what they're saying. You feel like there's something wrong with you because everyone else in the situation knows what's going on, but you, the viewer, are like, what the heck? What am I watching? And it is a weird moment of TV just to watch non-subtitled Wookiee growling at each other, again, for way, way too long. But overall, the plot, Chewie's trying to make it home. The Empire's cracking down on Kashyyyk. The Empire comes in for a little bit and leaves. And it all builds up to, the Empire comes, they don't see anything, they leave. It's supposed to be suspenseful. And you see the Empire go to the bar as well, and there's like a salesman. But it all builds up to Han and Chewie fighting one stormtrooper. That's the action that everything builds up to, is one stormtrooper. One. That's the big fight scene. But anyway, in addition to being boring, large parts of it make no sense. Like I talked about, why would certain things happen? Why would you have to watch a whole video here? The Empire's having secret surveillance on this bar, but it has nothing to do with the plot, so why are we watching them watch something that has nothing to do with the plot and doesn't affect anything ever? None of the characters from the bar ever come in. I think it's because the cantina scene was popular, but that was good and didn't drag on. But yeah, you wonder why you watch all this stuff. There's even a continuity error where Luke Skywalker brings 3PO along in case Chewbacca is the only one on the Falcon during the cartoon segment, and he does this because he doesn't understand Wookiee. Meanwhile, earlier in the special, he's talking to Chewbacca's family on the phone just fine. So wait, did he learn it after the cartoon segment, maybe? I don't know, but that is a weird little continuity error. There is actually a few things, that are kind of interesting during the cooking segment, which, again, goes on way too long and isn't funny. Chewbacca's wife does actually have a flat-screen TV, well before flat-screen TVs ever really came about, and she does watch a video that starts whenever she turns it on, so technically video on demand, that was predicted early. So yeah, a few interesting things, but overall, yeah, variety show just didn't work, and you can tell they were given, hey, Star Wars, and they're like, 70s sci-fi fantasy, and they made it way too trippy, especially the end. The end, there's a nice song from Carrie Fisher, but weird little, magic stuff that makes no sense. Actually, with all the trippy visuals and the cartoon scene, it kind of felt like a bad version of Heavy Metal with the tone, But yeah, this actually, it's really important to Star Wars because this is where Lucas started putting a heavier hand on things. And if Lucas didn't have as much control, Star Wars would have just gone off the rail. It would have flied away, sputtered a little bit, and we would have had a bad Episode 5 and a bad Episode 6. Although, Lucas was already working on 5, so he already has his hand on it. But if we didn't have this, Lucas would have had as much of a hold on Star Wars, and we would have got wacky sequels that made no sense in relation to anything. So this is a good example of what Star Wars was like without Lucas, with people at the time just not understanding it. It really does feel like, if you ever watch local specials, local variety shows, a lot of stuff that say Riff Tracks or Cinema Snob will find, it really does feel more like that than Star Wars. Like a local holiday special somehow landed the rights to a big IP. And, I know bad movies. I watch a ton of bad movies. You know, things like The Room and Troll 2, the standard ones, but then, like, you know, I'll watch deeper cuts like Slumber Party Massacre Part 2, A Night to Dismember. You know, I've seen my share, and this is one of the worst. Like, it's boring, so boring that it becomes painful. You know, a lot of others so bad they're good movies. They're entertainingly bad, and it keeps you entertained, but this is so slow, it's painful. It's one of the harder ones to get through, but overall, I am glad that I got through it just to see this weird little bit of Star Wars history, what 1970s Star Wars would look like without George Lucas, and I'm glad they did a major course correction. But overall, it's become kind of a cult classic, looking back and laughing on it, but definitely glad we got that course correction. Anyway, I guess that's all I have to say, really. To everyone who's watched so far, thank you for watching. To everyone who's liked and subscribed, thank you. You really are helping the channel out. I'll put a relevant playlist at the bottom, be my Christmas movies playlist. Again, I cover primarily horror, so if that sounds like something you're interested in, I definitely recommend sticking around for more horror videos, but also more horror Christmas. But anyway, thank you for liking and subscribing. I'll see you guys again very, very soon. Have a good day and a Merry Christmas.